Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to completely shift our perspective away from those transactional, quick-fix networking hacks that we literally see everywhere online. You know the ones? Those 10-step guides to manipulating a conversation or optimizing your professional connections to get the maximum ROI. Instead, we're going to look at the actual foundational currency of the modern economy, which is your character. It's a fascinating concept that completely redefines how we measure value in both our professional and personal lives. Think about how much time we spend trying to manufacture an image when the compounding, long-term value actually lies in who we genuinely are. So get comfortable and let's decode this whole architecture of influence together.
We'll start off by asking a really fundamental question. What is the most valuable currency in the modern economy? Take a second and really think about that. We usually think about wealth in terms of, dollars in a bank account, a diversified stock portfolio, or maybe in today's digital age, massive sets of data. We are so conditioned to track metrics that fit neatly onto a spreadsheet. But the sources we're exploring today force us to totally reframe how we think about wealth, influence, and every single transaction we make. If it isn't money, and it isn't raw data, what is the ultimate medium of exchange that actually powers human interaction?
The answer is simply trust. That one word encompasses the absolute bedrock of all strong, lasting relationships. Trust isn't just some nice, warm, fuzzy feeling. According to our source material, it's the true, undeniable core of social capital. It's the currency that allows literally every other type of transaction to happen. Without it, the gears of the economy and our interpersonal lives just grind to an absolute halt. Picture a toxic workplace where every email CCs the boss just to cover everyone's bases, or a stalled negotiation where both parties are terrified the other is hiding something. Nothing moves. Progress stops entirely because that fundamental currency is just missing.
Section 1. The ultimate social currency.
Moving from this theoretical idea of trust into a real, tangible system, we see that your identity actually has a true market value. Our sources define social capital not as how many contacts you have saved in your phone or your follower count, but as a network of strong, lasting relationships built on a foundation of individual authenticity, honesty, and trustworthiness. This completely separates it from traditional networking. Traditional networking often feels like, collecting business cards, like it's a numbers game. Social capital establishes that maintaining a reliable and sincere identity is a vital, undeniable asset for influence. You simply cannot hack this capital with a facade. You can't optimize your way into deep relationships. It requires genuine investment over time and the very real foundation of who you actually are.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core philosophy of the trust economy. People buy you before they buy from you. It's such a powerful phrase. What this means in practice is that personal credibility has to be established and verified before any professional or business transaction can ever take place. Imagine you're choosing between two service providers. One has this slick, heavily produced pitch but feels kind of evasive when you ask direct questions. The other is straightforward, admits what they don't know, and has a stellar reputation for genuine interactions. You are almost certainly going to choose that second person, even if their pitch wasn't as polished. Because if they don't buy into your character, they are never going to buy into your product or your ideas.
Section 2. Signaling your true character.
So a natural question comes up. How is this currency actually minted and put into circulation? I mean, how do people know they can trust you? It all comes down to what the source text calls the architecture of influence, specifically a concept known as signaling. We signal our character through consistent actions, genuine behavior, and a reliable identity. Your consistent actions basically act as the minting press for this currency. What does consistent action look like on a random Tuesday afternoon? It means showing up to the meeting on time, prepared, exactly as you promised. Genuine behavior is reacting honestly to setbacks instead of, spinning them with PR speak. A reliable identity in a corporate setting means your colleagues know exactly what your values are day in and day out. By being genuinely you over and over again in all sorts of different situations, you signal your true character. You broadcast to the world that you are a known, reliable entity. This isn't about one grand gesture. It's about the quiet, compounding credibility built by just being consistently you.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that this consistent, signaled trust acts as a lubricant for social interactions. That's a direct concept from the text, and it's honestly a perfect metaphor. Think of an engine. Without oil, the friction literally destroys the machine. While in our lives, trust is that oil. It makes every single interaction smoother, faster, and infinitely more effective. When trust is absent, the friction is incredibly high. In business, that friction looks like endless legal reviews, intense micromanagement, and constant second-guessing, all things that drain energy, waste time, and cost an absolute fortune. But when trust is present, you don't have to write ironclad contracts for every minor agreement. The friction disappears, and velocity just takes off.
Section 3. The cost of faking it.
Now, what happens when we try to hack the system? The sources present a really stark contrast regarding the pitfalls of inauthenticity. On one side, authentic actions foster deep, meaningful connections. But on the other side, inauthentic actions actively erode your standing. The sources specifically warn that people are inherently turned off by fakeness. It taps right into our evolutionary psychology. We humans have these incredibly highly tuned radars for deception. We instinctively scan for incongruencies between what someone says and how they actually behave. And dishonesty? It's rapidly detected. Think about that immediate feeling of a lost connection when you realize someone is feeding you a scripted line instead of speaking from the heart. The very moment that deception registers, the trust completely evaporates.
Which leads us to a pretty hard truth. Counterfeit currency destroys social capital. Dishonesty isn't just a simple misstep or a momentary lapse, it actively burns the social capital you've worked so hard to build. And here is the brutal asymmetry of trust. It takes years of consistent behavior to build, but it literally only takes seconds to destroy. It proves that there are absolutely no shortcuts to true influence. If you try to signal a character you don't actually possess, the market, meaning your peers, your network, your community, will correct itself rapidly and your social capital will plummet straight to zero.
Section 4. How to build trust.
With the dangers of faking it out of the way, let's look at the real-life, actionable steps you can take to start building your wealth and trust today. Think of your relationships like a bank account, a trust ledger. Every single interaction is either a deposit or a withdrawal. The sources outline that keeping promises, acknowledging the achievements of others, and showing appropriate vulnerability act as heavy deposits. They build up your balance over time. For example, if you voluntarily cover for a teammate who is totally overwhelmed, that's a massive deposit. Conversely, dishonesty and inauthenticity act as massive, sometimes account-draining withdrawals. If you take credit for that same teammate's work in a meeting later that week, that's a devastating withdrawal. You constantly have to be aware of your balance.
The text outlines some really specific, actionable steps to foster these deep connections. They might seem simple, but their impact is huge when executed consistently. Number 1, be consistent and honest. This means your private conversations actually match your public statements. Number 2, show appropriate vulnerability. Actually, let's pause on that. What does that look like in practice without oversharing? It's simply admitting when you don't have the answer to a question or owning up to a minor mistake immediately rather than hiding it. It lets people see the real human behind the work. Number 3, be reliable for team projects. If you say you'll have the report done by Friday at noon, it's in their inbox at 11:55 a.m. Number 4, take a genuine interest in others. Ask a follow-up question about their weekend and actually listen to the answer instead of just waiting for your turn to speak. And number 5, acknowledge others' achievements. Openly praise a colleague's great idea during a presentation. These are the daily micro-habits that meant the currency of character.
Ultimately, the compounding result of these daily authentic actions is that your reputation and your credibility become invaluable assets. They become this unshakable foundation for your influence. We live in an era of insanely rapid technological change. Hard skills can be learned, software gets updated, and artificial intelligence is automating countless tasks. But in a landscape where so much is shifting and so easily replicable, your trustworthy reputation, your genuine human character, is the ultimate future-proof asset. It cannot be automated away, and it certainly cannot be copied. It is distinctly, uniquely yours.
We're going to wrap up this explainer by leaving you with a vital question to ask yourself. As you go about your day, as you head into your next meeting or sit down to reply to your next email, just take a breath and ask yourself, are your actions today making a deposit or a withdrawal? Remember, in the trust economy, every single interaction counts. Keep building that capital, stay genuine, and I'll see you in the next explainer.